Hey, it's Doris with all of the books. Pardon the mess. I am still in progress with the room renovation. I want to film over there, because that's a really nice backdrop. But alas, the glasses glare is horrible in that portion of the room. So I'm gonna have to figure something out here. I'll get this mess cleaned up eventually. I will. But, those sorts of things take me time. And pardon the squeaky chair. I need to trade it out for one of the other ones, but I haven't done that yet either. So, here we go. Oh, and stay tuned, because if you did happen to watch my craft room /study/ library reorganization video that I just posted prior to this one, I forgot another kitty clip. Yes, kitties and books. Bliss. So I'll add that to the end of this one. Anyway, so yes, this is, did I even tell you what this is? This is my October wrap-up, half of it. So I am still finishing up a couple of Victober reads. I know it's nonfiction November, but I gotta finish them first. Anyway, so I'm gonna do a wrap up with those. Hopefully, I mean, if I finish them today, I can do the wrap up tomorrow. We'll see. I am kind of anxious to read some nonfiction, but priorities. Anyway, I'm rambling. So these are the non-Victober-ish reads. You'll see what I mean right now, because let's just start. So I started out Victober with Unmentionable, the Victorian Lady's Guide to Sex, Marriage, and Manners by Therese O'Neill. And I saw this on Olive, from a Book Olive's channel, a couple years ago when I first started BookTube, and just thought it looked really funny. I was not disappointed. The blurb on the front says hysterically funny and unsettlingly fascinating. This book is full of awesome. Oh, and that was by Jenny Lawson from Furiously Happy, which is another really funny book. But yeah, this is just what it says it is. It's, oh, all about what women had to deal with back in the day. And there's lots of pictures, so it's a fast read, and while it does go into detail, like more than you want to know sometimes, it's also quite humorous. Dad humor, except, a woman. Mom humor, it's mom humor. So yeah, this was great. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And lo and behold, there is one called Ungovernable about children in the Victorian era. So I think I might need to get that next Victober. So yes, I'm making plans in advance for next Victober, because Victober is awesome. So then I also finished another Mary Stewart with our buddy read group, Thunder on the Right. This one, Mary Stewart's are cozy, just cozy mystery reads. They're like modern historical fiction for us, but most of them were written more as contemporary at the time. For example, this one was written in 1957. So, and yeah, this one is set, they're very travelogue-esque as well. This one is set on a vacation in the Pyrenees, right on the border of France and Spain, and it centers around a convent. It was perfect for October because it had a little bit of a spooky element to it. There was this scene with one of the, she wasn't exactly a nun, she wasn't a nun, but she was wearing, a habit, and black flapping in the breeze, and the way it was written, like teetering on the brink of falling, and the way it was written, it really reminded me of The Wizard of Oz, the witch in that. So really fun. The romance was a little bit off. It was cute because the dad was a college professor, and it was one of his students fell in love with his daughter, and the mom wasn't keen on that, so mom's trying to keep them apart, but then a couple years later the dad kind of brings them back together, so that was cute. The guy was a little bit old school and wanting to protect her, and she was, you know, a little bit working on being independent. She was pretty young, but anyway, enjoyable per usual. And then I read Dark Places by Gillian Flynn, and yeah. I read Gone Girl like right before or right as I joined BookTube, or, you know, discovered BookTube or whatever, but I enjoyed that quite a bit. And this one I thought I would like even more because it's set in a small town, centers around a poor family, single mom, lots of kids. Some of them are teens and some of them are still quite young, and some Satanism in the mix. And, you know, this was one of my thriller / horror picks for October. But to be quite honest, this was just, it was just trashy for me. There wasn't much of the satanic vibe at all, and it really focused on trashy teenage stuff, and I wasn't down for that. There was just too much of it, and eye-rolling, cringeworthy, and yeah, and there were some really super gory parts that I wouldn't have minded if they were human focused. Do I sound like a horrible person? But they were, it was a cow, and I just didn't like it. So boo on that one. A rare, you know, I'll probably give it 3 stars. I mean, it did keep me turning the pages for the most part, but not my vibe. This one, however, right up my alley, a new great nonfiction writer for my goal of finding nonfiction writers that I want to read all of their work. So this Erik Larson of Isaac Storm is the Erik Larson of The Devil in the White City, which is the one that's been on my TBR that I've been intending to read and have heard so many great things about, and was going to read it in October, but I found out that Patrice and Heidi were reading Isaac's Storm, and, you know, I had major FOMO and said, can I read it with you? And so I got it, and I thought it would be really cool to read it because hurricane season, I'm a Floridian, but yeah, it ended up hitting a little too close to home with Hurricane Michael. But it was interesting to think about because this one is set in 1800, and Isaac's Storm is one of the most devastating storms to hit the United States. It's projected between 4,000 and 8,000 lives were lost from this storm, and, you know, it's harder to keep up with specifics back then. One thing that was interesting is Hurricane Michael that hit my hometown, Florida, last month. His descriptions in this book are like exactly the devastation that you saw from this Hurricane Michael that just hit. So I think equally powerful. Hurricane Michael was probably even more powerful than this one. I don't know, but it was really interesting to compare the difference, because with Hurricane Michael, there were like less than 30 lives lost total over the whole, you know, southeast U.S., which, you know, any loss of life is horrible, but, you know, the comparisons there you can clearly see. And it's just interesting to know it's not just the difference between our forecasting abilities, which clearly, but really more so communication. you know, we are able to communicate and know what's going on in the world, and we have all of this visual footage of what these storms do and what they are doing. And so communication plays a huge factor in everything in our world these days. But anyway, the thing I like about this book, and my favorite types of nonfiction reads are, you know, subtitles with nonfiction, A Man, a Time, and The Deadliest Hurricane in History. So I love narrative nonfiction, but I love nonfiction that looks at everything that you can think of about the topic and the time and the subject. So not only is this about the hurricane, but it's about how people lived back then. It's about Isaac, who was the meteorologist when that was a new field of study, and the technology that was being developed, and politics involved between us and Cuba, and just fascinating. Thoroughly enjoyed this book. Definitely, I think I'm going to read The Devil in the White City this month, and several people have recommended the one about the Lusitania as being great as well. I think it's Dead Wake or Deadly Wake, something like that. But anyway, loved it. Another book that I really loved, Unsheltered by Barbara Kingsolver. This one just came out last month, I think, really recently. And I love me some Barbara Kingsolver. And definitely check out Jacqueline's recent video. She just posted it yesterday, I think, with her Friday Reads, where she talked about it and went into really great detail about the topic of this book and thematically and everything. But this one, Barbara Kingsolver, her books don't have a page-turning plot generally. They have really interesting characters. I don't necessarily get connected, like, emotionally with them all the time, but Barbara Kingsolver makes me think about so many things, and her books are so richly layered thematically, and focusing on social issues and environmental issues, and with characterization. She does so well at introducing a broad spectrum of characters that just play different roles in society, and you can always find yourself in one or two of her characters, and seeing yourself in the story and knowing that she as an author has something to say about the world at large. It really opens your mind and lets you think about what other people are thinking, and on both sides of the issue, and should I change my thinking? How can I change someone else's thinking? I love Barbara Kingsolver. I think she's great. This book is extremely contemporary. You can see current politics in the U.S., not specifically for the most part, but alluded to, especially during the most recent presidential election, and really spot on. And then there is a historical fiction timeline, which is set in the exact same location as the contemporary one, but it's set more in the Victorian time period, so in the 1800s, the mid 1800s, I guess, and it centers around the waves that Darwin has made in society with his new ideas, and how people are reacting to that, you know, and again, in different cross sections of society, and how it affects this small town and the people in it. And the links, that's another thing I love. I love making connections in literature, which is why I love this type of book and the Isaac Storm that talks about so many different things. I love thinking about those connections, and Barbara does a great job in making connections between the past and the present. And, you know, the world is crazy now. It was crazy then too. It's always been crazy, and generally we seem to get through it. So there's hope. There's hope for the world. But anyway, I thoroughly enjoyed this. I loved reading it with Mel and Jacqueline and Tanya. We had some great discussions about it, and yes. And one more for you. Dark Banquet by Bill Shute. Blood and the Curious Lives of Blood-Feeding Creatures. So this is a guy I read earlier this year, Cannibalism by him, that I thoroughly enjoyed. This one I also enjoyed. I think it's his first or one of his earliest works, and not quite there the way Cannibalism was, but still I really enjoyed it. And it really fit Victober as well. The first section was on bats, obviously. This is talking about parasitism and blood cannibalism. Not cannibalism, but blood predators and in the natural world. And the first section was on bats, which was very interesting and creepy, you know, woo. And then the second section, which I wasn't quite expecting, was on leeches. And he explains just everything you ever wanted to know about bloodletting, which I actually have been really curious about, especially reading Victorian literature, and so it fit really well with that. And then the latter half, I thought it would have been funny to have vlogged me reading it, because some of my facial expressions while reading about bed bugs and ticks were quite disturbed. So yeah, Bill Shute is known for his dad humor, and there's one section in it where he's collecting blood at a slaughterhouse for his bats back at the office, which, you know, you gotta do these things, but the dad humor wasn't quite appropriate there, you know. Anyway, but yeah. Oh, that's gross. Let me disturb you. There's pictures in this one as well. So yeah, I think I need to share. I just saw a good one. Where'd it go? Oh, here. Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize in advance. So this one's not too bad. Ish. That's a bed bug. This one you may not want to look. Oh. Anyway. That's it. I'm going to add the kitty clip. Victorian wrap-up will be coming soon. Thanks so much for watching, and I will be back soon. Bye. Boo. Are you sure this is your best idea? Oh dear. I think you're an accident waiting to happen here. Oh dear. Yeah. That's a good idea, Boo. Good idea. She was climbing on these piles of books in here.